And welcome to another edition of our local talk program, but this is Behavioral 911 with Kellie Siphon with Applied Behavior Happiness. How are you today?
I am so well, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me once again like you do every single Friday. Let's do a quick little, like we do every Friday, quick little infomercial information about you and who you are.
Absolutely. So I am Kellie Siphon. I'm the owner of Applied Behavioral Happiness, where we change behavior and protect the spirit. Everything from whining and fussing to getting into fights. We're here to help while making sure that we're changing behavior and not your child.
There you go. Again, my name is Trace. Give us a phone call, 919-618-9258, 919-618-9258 if you want to be a part of the program. But all of this, every time we go live, is recorded. You can head back to our website at nextdoorradio.com under the program and the videos tab. So I want to really bring up conversation. We've been asked about potentially of separation, divorce kind of situations. I wanted to bring that up to you here today because it is a huge change of life. Absolutely. My parents were divorced when I was 10 years old. I had no clue what was going on. But of course now I do. I figured out what was going on after the fact. But let's talk a little bit more about that. The conversation leading up to them, prepare them for that situation. How would you handle that?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of different things to consider here. Now, I get a number of different kinds of cases where divorce is involved. I have cases where domestic violence has been a part of the divorce. I have cases where the divorce is incredibly amicable. And what we're going to want to look at here is how do we support communication at the level that the child's going to be able to understand and support the fact that this is not their fault. So that's a very, very big one. This is not your fault. We love you. This is something that's happening. It's not going to change. There's nothing you can do to make it better. You know, you can't be so good that it gets better or anything like that, because kids will try to fix things if they can. And working through to make sure that you're using words that are at their level to communicate that this is what is happening. It's going to be okay. Let me answer your questions.
Kellie Siphon joins us here by way of our in studio and by way of our social media live here today. My name is Trace Dodd on Next Door Radio, Behavioral 911 with Kellie Siphon. So, how hard is that though? We just celebrated our 8-year anniversary, me and my wife. How hard is it to kind of have that conversation with the younger kids? Of course, even the older kids situation, they don't understand what's going on, but especially 5-year-old, of course,
sure.
By any means, we're not separating or divorcing. Don't get this conversation there. Let me get that out there. But it's hard to imagine somebody going through that.
Certainly. So often when I have families that are struggling, we'll start with a period of separation and start talking about how, we are going to try living in different houses. We're going to try having some time here, having some time there, and moving through with a bit of a slow transition if possible. It allows for getting used to the differences in the rules between the houses. It allows for, again, open communication across, making sure that they know this isn't their fault. This isn't something that's going to change, and we're going to move forward through it. From there, what's even harder than the communication may be some of the things that you see afterwards, some of the behavioral effects.
Interesting. So, regarding that, is there anywhere that they can go or any tips that you can offer by way of your website or social media or things like that?
Absolutely. So if you're going through a separation or divorce, going on to my blog and going to the grief page, there's a blog about talking about grief. Separation has an element of grief to it, separation and divorce. So you can use a lot of those same resources to be able to work through it. As well, there are a number of providers in the area that specialize in working through separations in a clean way. So those would be therapists as well as coaches that focus on having really, really clean divorces that end in amicable co-parenting situations. You can always schedule a free discovery call with me, and I'll be happy to talk about different resources that may be the best fit for you.
Love again. Kellie Siphon, Applied Behavior Happiness. This is Behavioral 911 on Next Door Radio, live here today by way of our social media outlets. Any questions, you can shoot us an email at contact@nextdoorradio.com, or you can listen back to any of the programs that we've ever done by way of our website at nextdoorradio.com under the program and the recordings tab. Now let's switch over. Again, we talked a little bit about it last week. Halloween is right around the corner.
Yes.
Candy. I'm looking forward to stealing my son's candy.
Yep.
what are some best tips moving forward, especially as trunk or treat's about to come on? You're about to go into uncharted territory when it comes to new territory and going to houses and knocking on doors. Let's offer some tips there.
Absolutely. So one of the first things to consider is, what is the weather going to be like? And is your child going to be devastated if they have to put a coat on over their beautiful, very thin, unprotective costume? So if we know it's going to be cold, which it has been rather chilly at night recently, we're going to start looking at, can we get some really thin underlayers that are going to keep them warm but allow them still to show off their costume as much as possible, just to avoid that fight altogether. From there, when you're in new areas, consider whether your child is going to be able to be in this area safely without running off. Do they know boundaries? Do they stop on their own? Or is it going to be a handhold situation? And making sure they're prepared for that ahead of time. Like, I can trust you to walk around by yourself. Fantastic, I will. Or, hey, when we go to this place, we are holding hands. Ahead of time, let's get ahead of that fight and make sure that they understand.
What if that child said, look, I'm 5 years old. I could do it myself, Daddy. And I'll tell you, well, no, you can't because you're 5 years old. What should I tell him?
So tell me what...
Or he or she,
Sure.
Not necessarily about me, but yeah.
If we're talking about a child that you are 100% certain will not be able to safely walk around in this situation, it's going to be a conversation of, absolutely you can do it by yourself, and it's my job to keep you safe. So for today, because this is a special day, there are different rules than usual. It's going to be a hard conversation for sure. It may not go over particularly well, but you need to hold that boundary. If you are uncertain whether or not they will be able to remain safe, you think, you know what, this is a trunk or treat, the street's closed off, I'm pretty sure they're going to do pretty well, set a very clear boundary to what is acceptable, and if that boundary is crossed, keep it. So I need you to be within 10 feet of me. I'm going to give you one warning. That's it. No 3, 2, 1s, no warning, 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 warning. What I always say is, set a boundary and don't lie about it. You don't want to lie to kids. They will start looking for that little squeak.
My wife, she tells me that all the time.
Yeah.
In a good way, of course.
Certainly.
I was like, for example, we went to a baseball game the other day, and he misunderstood what I told him about his baseball stuff. He said, Dad, you lied to me because you said you were going to bring it to Gigi's house. I said, son, no, I did not. Never even said that. Told you I was going to bring it here. And so having that mixed conversation, that's what's hard for me, because even my wife says, well, Trey, you never said that. But yes, I did.
Sure.
So how do you work that out?
Certainly. So in those sorts of conversations, it's often helpful to bring in a visual, because there's a big difference between lying, blatantly lying, a little white lie, yes, that dress looks fantastic, or like, we didn't really understand each other, And there's a place for each. Now, I'm not going to say everybody should lie, that's not what I'm talking about here. But there is a time to talk about, you know what, you're right, I lied to you, I meant to, because there was a surprise birthday party. And this was the reason that I went through. Like, let's look at this visual here, and let's point to where it's at, and let's point to why. And in this situation, we could go, hey, this was a miscommunication. I thought I said this, you thought I said that. No one meant to hurt each other. We had a miscommunication. It's on this side of things. And using that visual can help kids start to visualize it in their head and see what they're doing, what others are doing, and put a framework on whether or not it's appropriate and whether or not they need to react to it.
And I love that. It's, again, you never know where the line is being crossed when it comes to, again, hey, son, I'm going to steal your candy and you're going to be okay with it.
Sure.
I love my chocolate. Let's be honest. You guys, you and your family celebrate Halloween?
Absolutely.
Do you really?
Yep.
Where are you guys going this year?
We are on the farm, so usually we'll just go to the end of our driveway and catch up with everybody as they go along, which is just fantastic.
Yeah. So we usually go, of course, we go to the trunk or treats of the church and here in downtown and across all of Granville County. But in Durham, or Nana Babs, what we call her, my father-in-law's fiance, they have a fantastic neighborhood to kind of go. So we take the golf cart out there. He has a great time, him and his cousin. So it's pretty cool to kind of be a part of. It is pretty neat. And Kellie Seifman joins us here by way of our in-studio, by way of video and audio today. We'll be the Behavioral 911 every single Friday here on Nextdoor. Where can our listeners find some more information about you? Offer some tips, get a phone call, or anything like that?
Absolutely. So I mentioned getting a free discovery call with me. You can go to appliedbehavioralhappiness.com. Any of the red request appointment now buttons will get you there. Free 30 minutes just to make sure that you have the resources that you need. If you prefer a phone call, go ahead and call the office at 984-235-1058.
Miss Kellie, always a pleasure. Always love having you in studio. Thank you very much. If you missed this show, of course, we've been saying it throughout the broadcast, you can go to our website at nextdoorradio.com under the program and recordings, and it'll be right there. Hey, God bless you. Have a great weekend, okay?
Thank you so much,
Yes,
Trey.
ma'am. Again, my name is Trey Snott. On behalf of Local Talk, this is Behavioral 911 on Next Door Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Next Door Radio app.